Cowboys Pregame Live is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today.
The clock is ticking on the 2024 NFL regular season. We are now in week 15. It is the final month of the year as the Cowboys travel to the East Coast. A noon kickoff with the Carolina Panthers on the docket as we welcome you in to Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resort. Here from the Star in Frisco and the Globe Life Studios. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeoman, soon to be joined by Nick Eatman and Nicole Hutchison. Tommy Yarish joining the show later with Stephen Jones as well. Plenty to look forward to. Glad you're with us, but this is a Cowboys team that's going to have to rally after a tough loss last week to the Cincinnati Bengals. Playoff hopes hanging on by a thread. A less than 1% chance thread as they enter the final month of the regular season. Barry, how do you continue on and, as the Panthers like to say, keep on pounding?
Well, to be honest with you, Kyle, I think this team has to have that same mentality that they had last week. I mean, they fought extremely hard as a team overall against a talented Bengals team. And if it wasn't for a special teams blunder, this team could have walked away with a W. So I love the mentality of this team these past couple of games. They have to have that same mentality going against this Carolina Panthers team, because even though the record doesn't show it, Carolina has been playing really good football these past couple of weeks. So they're going to have that mentality going into this, but they got to keep that fight alive.
You got to keep the fight alive, and the good thing is, as good as we look up here with these suits on, they were all made by little threads that are all put together. So they got to continue to put these things together and go out there and take care of their assignments. Go out there, you have a job to do, you have a name to represent on the back of your jersey, you have a star to represent on your helmet. Go out there, take care of business, but it's not going to be easy, as Barry said. This is an ascending Carolina Panthers team that has been playing really good ball. Their last 3 losses all come against all playoff teams. Matter of fact, one of them was a defending champion. One of them is probably one of the favorites in the NFC, and then another competitive team in Tampa Bay, and they only lost by 1 possession. So you better bring your A game, otherwise you'll get punched in the mouth.
Just to continue with your metaphor, not all thread counts are the same. Some thread counts are like Barry Church.
This is true.
Other ones are like Kyle Yeomans. That's a
what
part
can I
of
say?
it.
This is true.
Now, with all that being said, the Cowboys are missing a couple key threads in this game. Let's hit the most recent breaking news. Trayvon Diggs out for the season. This was reported on Friday. Things just continue to snowball for the Cowboys. They lose 2 starters on the defensive side of the ball. How big is it to miss Trayvon Diggs? Just 1 game, Barry Church, back from having all 3 of your starting corners available for the first time yet last week.
Yeah, this is a huge loss, and you hate to see it because, like you just mentioned, last week was the first time in a long time where you had all 3 bona fide corners there, and they did a good job outside of Jamar Chase on shutting down Joe Burrow and that high explosive offense out there. But you hate to see this for a secondary that was trying to gel as a unit. Bland coming back, Lewis out there. You had Diggs being able to shut people down on the outside, but losing another key starter, another all-pro type talent out there has got to hurt this defense overall.
It hurts the defense overall, but this is what happens when you have the season that you're having. Guys, this might have most likely was an injury that he probably could have continued to play through, but once you realize that your season is pretty much in the out of your grasp, you start looking at your main players and saying, is it worth it? So obviously Trayvon's given his all this year, but obviously it just hasn't panned out to be enough. Now you got to start looking towards the future and making sure that your guys are secured.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of those elements playing into factor. Now, not necessarily the case for DeMarvion Overshown.
No.
Overshown suffering a torn MCL, ACL, and PCL. They call that the trifecta in the right knee. An unfortunate ending to his otherwise phenomenal season as you take a look at his season stats and where he ranks among the team. Mike McCarthy mentioned earlier in the week just how much DeMarvion Overshown is going to be missed by this team. We'll hear from Mike in a moment, but Barry, when you look at what he brought to the table defensively, how much are they missing his presence on that side?
Oh, to me, he was the second best player on this defense, and that's when you had a healthy Micah Parsons out there. And to me, you hate to see that happen to such a young player, man, who was getting better and better as the weeks were going on. Not only on the football field, but his confidence was growing off the football field as well, becoming a leader of this defense overall. But I know the man that he is and the guy that he is, he's going to attack this rehab going forward, and he's going to come back better than ever. But when you lose a talent like that, it's extremely hard to come back from, because this guy not only was great on the football field as far as tackling and sideline to sideline, but he brought that energy to this defense. He brought that energy and that swag to this defense, so he'll be sorely missed.
Let's hear from Mike McCarthy and what he had to say.
Yeah, definitely. DeMarvin's getting ready to have a big surgery in front of him. It was a significant knee injury, and definitely, I mean, you could feel it on the sidelines, and just being on the field, part of the exam, I knew it was serious. But obviously his physical and football talent speaks for itself. He's just such a bright light. I mean, he's got a great infectious personality. Tough young man, and we're definitely going to miss him. But he's got a long road. He's got a long road of rehab in front of him. So he'll obviously be loved and supported every step of the way.
And Mike McCarthy, of course, disappointed to hear that news about DeMarvion Overshown. They're going to need a guy like Maris Leofau to step up in a big way as a rookie at the second level, wearing number 35, which just so happened to be Overshown's number last year when he suffered a torn ACL in the other knee. When we come back on Cowboys Pregame Live, we go out to Bank of America Stadium. We're going to talk about Rico Dowdle. Could he be in store for his third straight 100-yard game? Because we got a chance to catch up with Nick Eatman of DallasCowboys.com. He's on the sidelines in Charlotte. More Pregame Live coming up right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys.
Pregame Live leading into kickoff between the Dallas Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers. Let's go out to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Nick Eatman joins us now. Nick, first off, thanks for braving the cold here. What's the weather like out there in Carolina? And I heard there's a chance of rain that could possibly be looming as well.
Well, I think that chance is definitely something that's happening when there's, after kickoff. And so, me personally, I looked at it in the pregame. And so, after kickoff, I'll be up in the press box. No, but for the guys that really matter out here on the field, yeah, there's a chance that it could be a little bit of rain. I don't think it's cold enough to call it sleet, but we'll see. It is cold. It's I'm bundled up a little bit. I think these players, though, running around, they should be fine. We'll see what it's like when it gets a little bit colder. One thing to note when you get to weather like this, you don't want to have a lot of kickoff returns, obviously, but it's going to be a challenge to kick the ball out of the end zone like they normally do away from Turpin. We saw in Washington he was able to get some returns, the big one, obviously. So if that happens, I look for the return game to be a factor today.
Good point on that side. We go back to the defensive side of the ball. DeMarvion Overshown injured last week. Trayvon Diggs now out for the season. How do you anticipate the Cowboys to fill those voids with the guys that are next man up mentality?
Yeah, it's been next man up the whole time. It seems like from the start of the season, and the Cowboys, unfortunately, are used to this. So you'll see some Damone Clark and their linebacker Maris Leofau. It's going to be a big day for him. We saw a little bit from him just after the injury to Overshone, and he stepped up against Cincinnati, had a sack and a half in there, and he talked about this week just really the opportunity that's in front of him. His confidence is sky high, so that's a good thing there. And then from the cornerback position, it's what they've done all year. I mean, Bland and Diggs only got the one game together. You'll see, the other corners in there. I think Keemon Hall up there also, Oruwariye as well. But it's like the Cowboys are running onto the field here. As you hear a lot of cheers. That's because there's a lot of Cowboy fans, obviously, here at Bank of America Stadium.
No doubt, and they travel very well out there in Charlotte. Final question for you. No Cooper Beebe this week. He's out with a concussion. Do you anticipate the same rotation at the offensive line spots that we saw last week with Brock Hoffman and T.J. Bass?
Yes, and those guys, it's funny, they were kind of talking about it this week in the locker room that they always play together. They've been backups, but just about every single time that Hoffman's been in the game, he's had Beebe next to him. So it's just the way it's kind of worked out. It wasn't supposed to be that way last week, but that's how it ended. That's how it's going to start in this game. Hoffman at center, Beebe, those two guys, they're brawlers. In a game like this, Carolina's defense is feisty, and they're ready for the challenge. And I think these two guys are as well. Rico Dowdle looking to run the ball, knows exactly how many yards he needs for 1,000 yards. He's got that on his radar as well. But I think more than anything, run the football. This is that type of game.
Thanks so much, Nick. Appreciate you as always, and we'll catch you again next week. Nick Eatman live on the sidelines at Bank of America Stadium. And as we talk about this inactive list, there's a lot going on whenever it comes to guys moving through this roster as a whole, guys. I mean, it's been tough, and you look at these names: Cooper Beebe, DeMarvion Overshone, obviously not there. Zach Martin's out for the year. Trayvon Diggs is on the list, but he's out for the year as well. Wanye Thomas in the same boat. It has been a tough year. But even through all of that, there is a bright spot, and it's what Nick Eatman just mentioned. It's the run game. Yeah. Rico Dowdle and company has been finding their rhythm. Isaiah, I'll start with you. How important has Rico Dowdle been to try and find some rhythm over these last few weeks?
Rico's been solid. Rico's been the same player since training camp. Yeah. And the thing is that the world's just now finding out because they're giving him more opportunities. This is a man that once you give him the ball 20 times a game, you know exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a 100-yard production running back with a touchdown. So if they continue to find ways to get him the ball, get it to him early, let him get in his groove, this offensive line will continue to cook regardless of the musical chairs that they're playing, and you can have some form of consistency in your offense.
Yeah, he's shown the ability that, when he can get consistent carries, when he can get the ball consistently throughout the game, he's shown the ability to ball. And like you said, Isaiah, I got to give credit to this offensive line, this makeshift offensive line, if you talk about that way. With all these injuries going, they're starting to play as a unit, and they're starting to create these big rushing lanes for Rico Dowdle. He just had to get the opportunity, and once he's had that opportunity, he was able to seize it, and we've seen it these past couple weeks. 100
yards for the first time 2 weeks ago in that win on Thanksgiving against the New York Giants. Then he had 134 yards, a career high last week against Cincinnati. What does he have in store today against the Carolina Panthers run defense, which has not been good? Dead last in terms of rushing yards per game allowed, even worse than the Cowboys run defense at times throughout the year, which is significant to keep in mind for those that have been following the Cowboys. But they're also dead last in third down efficiency, and then overall yards per game has not been good either. Do you anticipate something like that happening again, 100 yards on the table for a guy like Rico Dowdle?
Yeah, without a doubt I do, because I believe that's where you get the best offense when you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. They got to have some sort of balance. We understand that throwing the football 55 times or throwing the football all over the yard is not where you get the most from this offense and Cooper Rush. He works best when he can go off of play action, and to me, that's where this balanced attack needs to come from Rico Dowdle being able to run the football, keeping that Carolina Panthers defense kind of off kilter a little bit, and that'll allow Cooper to get the most out of Cooper Rush. So to me, you got to be balanced offensively, and that's led by Rico Dowdle coming out of the backfield.
I think you can have a lot of success against these guys, regardless of what their stat line shows that they're at the bottom of the league. But when you go back and look at the film, you have to do it from 11 personnel, and it's going to be hard for the Dallas Cowboys because they had this resurgence of this tight end group, and you're going to want more than one tight end on the field at a time. If you have 11 personnel, you have 3 receivers and 1 tight end, so you have to make a decision who you want out there. Obviously, we're going to assume it's Jake Ferguson, but when you go into a restricted sets with multiple tight ends, that's when it gets convoluted, and that's when the Carolina Panthers actually show up pretty well in the run defense category.
That's a huge key, and we're going to see if they employ one of those different strategies early in this game. It may even be the opening drive. We're going to get a good feel of how that would work out. Now, when we come back, Cowboys pregame live here from the Star in Frisco. What milestone could CeeDee Lamb be in store for today as they take on the Panthers on the road?
This segment was brought to you by Ashley, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. Closed captioning is brought to you by the Texas Lottery. Cowboys scratch tickets from the Texas Lottery are here. Play today.
Alongside Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, I'm Kyle Yeomans from the Globe Life Studios at the Star, leading into kickoff, Carolina and Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys, of course, with the CeeDee Lamb aspect of their offense, the factor that he's played throughout the year. He continues to play at a high level. He's within 27 yards now of 1,000 on the season. How do you get CeeDee Lamb involved early in a game like this against a team that's not very good in run defense, but they've got a guy like J.C. Horn, who's a pretty good corner on the outside?
Yeah, they do relatively well in terms of their one-on-one ability. However, they do not give these guys the ability to play one-on-one. These guys play a lot of zone defense, and they do it from 7 to 8 yards off. So in terms of getting CeeDee Lamb the ball, this should be the easiest matchup that CeeDee Lamb has had, simply because of the opportunities that are going to be afforded by him by space alone. Cooper Rush has to get on track early and often. This should be just like routes on the air in pregame warmup.
Yeah, when you got corners playing 8 yards off, this should be a case where you snap the ball to Cooper Rush. He throws the ball right to CeeDee. I mean, it should be extremely fast. CeeDee Lamb's an extremely smart quarterback. He knows how, or extremely smart wide receiver. He knows how to take advantages of zone defense out there. He's very quarterback friendly. So this should be a game, like Isaiah says, that, you know, CeeDee Lamb should have a big-time influence on this game because he's going against zone, and he should be able to pick that apart pretty easily.
One-word answer here, over under 10 receptions for CeeDee today.
Over.
Over.
Very much so over.
Yeah.
It is fantasy football playoff week, so keep that in mind.
You're going to be very happy
Lamb.
at CeeDee
Yes.
Lamb on it.
There you go. Good to know. He's on my team, too. So now, are you going to be happy to have Bryce Young on your fantasy team today? Of course, he's been great the last 5 games. He's had those 7 touchdowns, just the 4 interceptions. He started 1-7 as the starter, but they're 2-3 in their last 5. He's been better. How do you get Bryce Young to slow things down?
You got to make it hard for him in the pocket, and that's going to be a hard deal for the Dallas Cowboys because when you look at it last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, he was in the pocket. He was able to manipulate that pocket and get out of there and make some big-time plays to Adam Thielen out there on the outside. So for me, the key to slowing down a guy like Bryce Young is you got to make things hard for him. Get pressure in front of his face. Don't let him step up in the pocket and escape and make plays. He was able to do that big time last week.
Yeah, add pressure in the pocket and also have some sticky defense at the secondary. You need to get up there in the hip pocket of these receivers. Don't allow for them to have free releases and restrict the passing lanes for Bryce Young. Make him be an accurate passer today.
And keep that same mindset the Dallas defense has had the last few weeks. We'll talk more about that when Nicole Hutchison joins the show when we come back on Cowboys Pregame Live. How can the Cowboys, despite those injuries, have that mindset with Osa Odighizuwa and company this week?
To watch more Dallas Cowboys content on your connected TV, download the Cowboys Now app on Amazon Fire, Roku, and Apple TV.
The countdown to kickoff continues here at the Star and also in the Carolinas because the Cowboys are continuing and getting ready to take on the Carolina Panthers here in Week 15. But you talk about the defense that has improved so much with Osa Odighizuwa and Mazi Smith in terms of stopping the run. Well, that's also been a key component because they've been able to pass rush and have success in doing so. But without DeMarvion Overshown, that's a huge hit to this defense. And I caught up with Osa Odighizuwa about what kind of an impact that has on this defense.
You know, we got to continue to play hard, especially for Demo now because, you know, that's exactly what he would do if he was out there on the field. He played his heart out, you know what I mean? So we got to go just as hard for him as he was for us when he was out there.
Yeah, and you talk about also the production that he's brought to the team, and it's allowed Mike Zimmer to be a little bit creative as far as pass rush. How much of a challenge will it be now moving forward for you guys, for him to be creative, or does it not really make it a challenge at all?
It's definitely still, it's a challenge to not have your playmakers out there, you know what I mean? Like, Demo's presence was definitely felt in every down of the game, so it's definitely going to be challenging not having him out there, not having such a, you know what I mean, such an explosive playmaker on our field with us.
But your motto's always been, all we have is all we need. That's something that you spoke to us about on Cowboys Hour, I remember. So how much have you just kind of instilled that in this team moving forward as you get ready for the rest of the season?
That's just part of the game,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we love Demo. Definitely gonna miss having him out there, but you know, next man up. That's just what it is. That's the game of football. There's always injuries during the season, so you got to be ready for that. And when your number is called, you have to be ready to make plays as well.
Next man up and next team up as well. You have the Carolina Panthers on Sunday. You talk about a team that on paper is 3-game losing streak, but they've been in some really close ball games. But you could say the same thing about the Cincinnati Bengals. What's something that you guys took from that game to kind of take into this matchup against the Panthers?
Definitely can't make any critical errors or anything like that. I feel like we've been playing some solid football the past couple of weeks. It just came down to it at the end, and we weren't able to get it done this last game. But, you know, just look at that, make sure we make the proper corrections. The Panthers are definitely a good football team. They've been looking really good the past couple of weeks as well. They've been playing solid ball, coming down to some very close games. So just knowing the challenge that we have ahead and just making sure we're ready for that.
Oso Odighizuwa has always been confident in the guys that are on the field, that will take place on the field and continue to perform on Sunday today against the Carolina Panthers. All right, the guys will be up next here to wrap up the show on Cowboys Pregame Live.
Cowboys Pregame Live was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys, and by SWBC Mortgage. Join the more than 120,000 customers that we've helped to find their happier way home. Visit swbcmortgage.com to find a pro today.
Take a look at the NFL team sack leaders and where these teams rank as a whole over the last 3 weeks. The Cowboys and the Panthers have both done their job in terms of pass rush. They're going to try and employ that, putting some pressure on Cooper Rush and Bryce Young today. Noon kickoff on Fox. Stick around. We've got more coming on the internet side of things as we lead you into the matchup between the Panthers and the Cowboys. For Barry Church, for Isaiah Stanback, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We'll see you on the internet side of things. Thanks for watching on TXA 21. This is what I love about live television. You've got Friday Night Stars, you got Oso Odighizuwa, you got Barry Church standing up thinking we're going to a different part of the set. But now we're all friends here, hanging out on Cowboys Pregame Live, and we get to just talk football from this point forward. No more TV, no more commercial breaks. We've got you leading up to 11:45 Central Time and then kickoff between the Panthers and the Cowboys. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, I'm Kyle Yeomans. We were just talking about the defensive side of the football. Oso Odighizuwa, Nicole Hutchison with a great job on the package, talking about how they've reclaimed that defensive prowess, including the sack leaders overall. How important is it for the Cowboys to get pressure on Bryce Young today?
It's of the utmost importance, Kyle, when you talk about this defense, making sure they can get after and make things hard for Bryce Young out there. I mean, we've seen the past couple weeks with him having time back there, he's able to dissect defenses. He has Adam Thielen working out the slot right there, who's a mismatch nightmare against most slot defenders. So Jordan Lewis is going to have his hands full against against Adam Thielen. You see his young receivers on the outside. Leggett, I believe his name is. He had a big drop last week, but other than that, he's been playing well out there on the outside. So they have got to make things hard for Bryce Young out there, because if you just let him have time back there, he can be cool, calm, and collected. And he's starting to remind us about how good he was in Alabama and what made him the first overall pick. So they've got to make things hard for Bryce Young out there this afternoon.
A lot of the big plays that comes on the heels of the Carolina Panthers comes because of the fact that these guys have time to allow their plays to develop. These guys, David Canales, the head coach for the Carolina Panthers, is one heck of an offensive mind. That's the reason why he got the job, in case those that did not know. And a lot of the moves that they do offensively is double moves. They do a lot of out and ups. They do a lot of slant goes. They do a lot of post corners. They do a lot of things that make you think I'm running one route, and if I have the time, right, to sit back there and let it develop, I can get behind your defensive coverage. So to Barry's point, those guys have to get home, because if you don't get home and don't make him uncomfortable, and you're going to be in for a long day, because these young receivers, it doesn't really matter who you are, what your abilities are as a personnel, the system is going to allow for you to be open. And that's what you don't want if you're a Dallas Cowboys defender.
It's going to be tough to continue that same type of mentality against this defense, especially without Trayvon Diggs in the secondary. There's a lot missing for the Cowboys. No DeMarvion Overshown, no Trayvon Diggs. Those are two guys that would have played a huge role in slowing down a system like that, just because of their versatility on the defensive side of the football. Let's go back out to Charlotte, North Carolina. On the sidelines, our very own Tommy Yarish goes one-on-one with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
All right, thanks, Kyle. I'm here with Cowboys Executive Vice President Stephen Jones. Stephen, thanks for making some time. Obviously, the big news coming into today, the unfortunate news about Trayvon Diggs. What can you tell us about him? What's the latest?
Well, unfortunately, he had an incident in the game, and hats off to him for playing through it. I don't think he made it any worse, but, he's been battling some knee issues, but, it's a cartilage issue that finally came loose on him, and unfortunately, we are going to have to do surgery on that, and, it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get back. You're looking at probably 8 months. But anyway, he'll get in there, and just like, any of our other guys, go through the rehab and be ready to go.
Unfortunately, that's been such a major part of this season, has been injuries. And as you come into this game with a lot of banged up players, what does it mean to you, and what does it mean to this team to continue to keep on being positive and continue to try and stack up wins, especially when they go on the road?
Well, it's everything. Mike's doing a great job with this team, keeping them motivated. They're competing their asses off. I thought they, did a great job against Cincinnati. It's just unfortunate there at the end. We had the miscue, but it's real important for the next man ups, for these young guys to step up, play, and do a great job for us. They're not only playing for this year, but they're playing for their future, and got a lot of young guys on this team. So, we want to see them go out here and play well. We're playing a team today that's done nothing but get better over the last month or two, and so we'll have our hands full out here, but I know Mike will have our guys ready to go out there and compete.
So 4-2 on the road. If you want to get to 5-2, who do you think is going to have a big game today?
Well, I think it's got to be all the way around. Let's start with the defense. I think our guys are really getting their hands around what Coach Zimmer wants out of them with the defensive side of the ball. Mike gives quarterbacks fits with all his different looks, and especially young guys. And certainly they've got an up-and-coming young guy here in Carolina, but the defense needs to step up. And then obviously, I think we need to continue to do a great job running the football like we have the last 3 games. And that'll be a big key for us, is for Rico to come out here and do a great job running it. And then when we do throw it, I know Cooper knows to get the ball out, and need guys, especially our number 1 guys like CD and our tight end group, to step up as well.
Rico's given so much credit to his offensive line for his kind of emergence in these last couple of games. When you think about the movement that you've had up front there, how impressed are you by the fact that you've got 10 different starting lineups this season up front, and Rico Dowdle's able to have back-to-back 100-yard games?
Yeah, that just speaks to, and starting at the top with Coach McCarthy, really keeping our guys dialed in and focused. And then Coach Solari's done a good job with the different combinations. And as I mentioned to you earlier, just guys stepping up and taking advantage. A Hoffman, a TJ Bass, Chuma stepping up when Guyton's struggling with injury. You know, all the guys have played their part, and you know, they seem to be getting better and better. So, as I said, it'll be real important for us to run the ball today.
Stephen Jones here with us. Thanks so much for making some time. Back to the much warmer Kyle Yeomans.
We are a little bit warmer in studio. It's a little bit better along the way than the 40 degrees and the rain that they're dealing with out in Charlotte, North Carolina. Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback. I'm Kyle Yeomans. You heard there from Stephen. Whenever the injuries happen the way that they have, you've got to step up and have guys step up in a big way. Well, there's two guys that are either stepping up in a big way or back in the fold. We'll start on the back in the fold side of things. Maris Leofau, who has seen significant experience in his rookie year, these snaps accumulating along the way. Without DeMarvion Overshown, they need Maris Leofau to step up in that linebacking core. What type of role do you anticipate?
I believe he'll be that energy guy. Like, you know how Overshown was the energy guy for this team. Any type of play he made, whether it was a PBU, whether it was a TFL, whatever the case may be, he got up energized. And that kind of was throughout the entire defense when he was able to bring that energy. I think Leofau can be that same kind of juice guy, that energy guy for this team. Whenever he makes plays, whenever he makes tackles, he gets up, brings all the energy, and it forces everyone around them to pick up their game. But that's what I'm looking forward to see from number 35, Leofau. Can you bring that energy to the defense that Overshown was able to bring?
Yeah, you need to see versatility out of him. He's a smaller linebacker. That's the reality. So you start talking about that energy. You start talking about his quickness. He needs to be a change of pace linebacker. He's not a guy that's going to come downhill and take on a 330-pound offensive lineman, but he has to be able to get in those gaps. He has to be able to shoot the seams and get back there and grab an ankle, wrap somebody up, and get him down to the ground. Chuba Hubbard is going to be down there. He's a 1,000-yard running back. He's going to try to come downhill. He's going to try to enforce their will on you. So can you avoid the blocks by the offensive lineman, get around and make those splash plays, and then get up and be the energy bus for this defense?
Well, and that's what he anticipates as well. He's going to see a lot of that Hubbard attack, a lot of the guys on the outside, crossers and the levels that you anticipate to see from Dave Canales' system offensively as well. Here's what Maris Leofau said about the challenge at hand.
Obviously, we're devastated for Demo, and I was praying for him. But I know all I could think of when I was out there was for Demo, just being able to compete. Just knowing it was hard knowing that he was out, but I know I got to step up and I do what I got to do.
First career sack for you. How good did that feel, and how does that help build your confidence going forward now that you're going to be in a bigger role?
Right, it felt amazing. Just to get that opportunity and that sack in that time of the game, if I didn't know how to react. I got called out for my celebration. It was pretty weak, but I told them I didn't know what to do, so I was just happy.
So Maris Leofau knows that he's going to have to step up in a big way. The Cowboys are going to need Brandon Cooks to do so on the offensive side of the football as well. 2 games back. He's had a touchdown in each. This is his 3rd game back. What do you anticipate from Brandon Cooks offensively?
Well, first, I love how the Cowboys have been using him in the red zone these past couple weeks. He's been able to get touchdown grabs there, but I want to see him open it up a little bit. You love what they've been doing with Rico Dowdle as far as the run game is concerned. Let that play action eat and let Cooks go over there and open up the top of that defense. If you're able to protect Cooper Rush, they can get that balance going offensively. I think that Cooks will have the ability to take the top off of this defense with some play action looks. So I like to see what he can do in the infield part of the offense.
I want to see some double moves. I want to see some double moves out of Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is one of the best route runners this league has had in years. He's quick. He's in and out of his breaks. That's one of the things that's beneficial to him and his personnel. A lot of people have spoken negatively about his ability to have separation this year. I disagree. I think that separation issue came on the heels of the fact that their ball wasn't being released on time. And when he comes out of his break, if the ball's not there, now the defender closes the gap. One thing that Brandon Cooks challenges you at as a defensive back is being able to get out of your break. So if you get out of your break and he makes his first move, what happens when he makes his second move? Now you're on your heels, and now he's behind you, and now Cooper Rush has an opportunity to get the ball to him in an accurate way so that he can get some what we like to call yak yardage.
If that happens, and if Brandon Cooks takes full advantage of that, how much does that open up guys like CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker as the opposite pass catchers on the opposite side from Brandon Cooks?
So it opens it up a lot. If he's able to get over the top of that defense. That spreads everything else out. We all understand what the rest of these wide receivers, as far as CeeDee Lamb, Ferguson, can do. They're very quarterback friendly, so they understand the zones in defenses. And if you got a guy that's taking the top off, that leaves everything else underneath. That gives an opportunity for CeeDee Lamb to use some of that yak yardage. You get the ball in his hands fast, and he's able to take a slant 50 yards. That's kind of what this offense needs to get these explosive plays going, because you don't have an arm in Cooper Rush that can just stretch the entire defense. He's going to have these guys use their yak yardage, and you got a couple good receivers for the Dallas Cowboys that can do just that.
Yeah, especially when these guys are playing what they like to call cover 4 or cover 6, right? A lot of times these guys play those 4 defenders and they're backed off in coverage, okay? Those guys are anywhere from 15 to 20 yards deep. What that leaves is 3 underneath coverage guys, okay? 3 linebackers typically that are covering 53.5 yards sideline to sideline. That's a lot of room for a tight end to work. So in terms of Brandon Cooks being able to keep that secondary honest and keeping them back off the line of scrimmage, now all of a sudden Jake Ferguson has the entirety of the field to work.
Before we get to call your shot, I do have a question about that, because you look at the film and you adjust week to week in the NFL. Teams are looking at Cooper Rush and saying he's not attacking teams and defenses downfield.
It's true.
Carolina, traditionally on film, has played 6, 7, 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. Because of that, now if you were to employ that same mentality and go into the game and do the same thing if Carolina has been doing recently against Cooper Rush, or do you anticipate them flipping that and actually coming up and pressing a bit this week?
You know what? I anticipate them to stay with their cover 4, but there's a way, and Barry Church can speak on this, you can play a press cover 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Barry, you could probably allude to that a little bit more.
Yeah, when you have the press cover 4, your outside corners, everybody's considered having a fourth of the field. So when you got your outside corners there and you're pressing them at the line of scrimmage, that's going to throw off that timing between Cooper Rush and his wide receivers out there. But it also allows your safeties to play deeper, because when you get that jam on the line of scrimmage, they don't have to worry about, oh, this guy's going to get a free release. He's going to be right up on my heels. You're going to have that corner out there to slow things down and let those safeties diagnose things, so they can still play as high as they want to, even though you have a press cover 4 on the outside.
Because when I'm looking at the film and we're going through it week in, week out, I just find it hard to believe, even though that's what Carolina has done week in and week out, that they're going to stick with it when the opposing team, Cooper Rush, they haven't attack downfield.
Yeah, it's
so this is their opportunity to work up and to present a bit of a challenge closer to the line of scrimmage. It'll be interesting to see how they maneuver that and how they attack the Cowboys from the defensive side of the football. Let's see how we're going to attack our bold predictions. Now, it's been rough the last couple of weeks. Barry did get one right last week. He got one right. Bold predictions. We can only bet the amount of points that we have. Barry is back in the positive. He's got 1 point on the board. We're all still chasing Nate Newton, who's not here any longer.
Hold on now.
-1. That's where we're at right
now. So why am I lower than you if we both got -1?
Because you've got a bigger head than I do. And in doing so, you got to show a little bit of the forehead.
Y'all just want to see the pearly whites. I understand.
Yeah,
I feel you. It's all good.
You would have said the same thing if you were on the bottom half of it. So that's how it goes. All right, Barry, since you do lead the way, we'll let you start things off. What's your bold prediction?
Man, my bold prediction for this week in the National Football League, with the Dallas Cowboys going in there. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was one thing, but I'm going to go back to my Rico Dotto. Am I allowed to switch?
No, you're not. It's on the graphic right there.
I can't
Deron
switch it up.
Bland has an interception is what you did put.
See, I don't
you got to stick with it. No, you got to stick with it.
Bryce Young has been able to maneuver the pocket and not turn the football over. But you know what? I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it, man. I'm going to stick with it. Bland's going to go out there and get back to that old way of taking the football away from this Carolina offense. I predict one interception out there, at least one interception for Deron Bland out there. Hopefully he's able to take it back to the house, but I'm going to garner 1 point on that.
Backpedaling.
Listen up. I'm not gonna backpedal out of mine, okay? Yeah, I'm gonna say that Clowney won't be clowning around today. He is not. Him and his crew are not gonna get a sack on Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys offense. I think this offensive line, them gritty offensive linemen, are gonna hold the fort. You're gonna grab them and hold them, okay, and allow Cooper Rush to get the ball out. No sacks allowed today for the Dallas Cowboys offense.
Okay, no sacks allowed. Barry, I want you to say, what would have your bold prediction be if you were going to backpedal and switch?
I went right back to Rico. I mean, I've been getting luck on that as far as him getting these 100-yard gains. But I'm going to stick to my defensive side of the football. I'm going to stick with Bland.
Well, guess what? My graphic says, and it's right there on the bottom of the screen. Rico Dowdle will have his third straight. So I'm going to stick with Rico Dowdle, and he's going to have 100 yards against this Carolina defense. He'd become the first running back since Ezekiel Elliott in 2019 to have 3 straight 100-yard games after having 47 career games without 100 yards rushing. He's going to go back to back to back and get it done against Carolina today. That was fun, guys.
Love it, man.
Cowboys pregame live. You backpacked.
I did.
That's why
I tapped back into it.
If I knew, if I didn't have Rico Dowdle, I might have let you.
But you stopped it. Boom.
I was like, no. We're not doing the same thing. I got to catch up here. Make up some ground. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nicole Hutcherson, Nick Eatman, Tommy Yarich, and our entire Dallas Cowboys crew, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from Cowboys Pregame Live. We will be back after the game. Cowboys Game Night, Cowboys OT, and the first word presented by Dr. Pepper. Noon kickoff on Fox. Have fun, everybody. Joe Davis, Greg Olson on the call. Cowboys, Panthers. We'll see you next week on Cowboys Pregame Live.